Whether you're a photographer, videographer, graphic designer, illustrator, painter, musician, 3D motion animator, it doesn't matter. If you have a creative business, you've probably asked yourself, how do I get more clients? What do I charge? Why do I feel like I'm doing so much work with such little return? And what I found is that there are 5 mistakes that creatives make when starting a business. I've started multiple successful creative businesses in my life and also some not so successful. And today I'm able to fully sustain myself through this YouTube channel and my drone company that I started. And between those things, I was able to quit my 9-to-5 entirely and build a life for myself. But it hasn't been easy, and I've learned a lot along the way. So I want to share the secrets I've learned with you and save you some time. These are the 5 biggest mistakes that creative entrepreneurs make and how you can avoid them altogether. Mistake number 1 is doing the wrong kind of free work. I've seen a trend go around that creatives shouldn't do work for free. And while I understand that you should know your worth and not be taken advantage of, if you're just starting out, you should definitely be doing free work. You just need to do it the right way. Doing free work gets you in front of people that can actually help further your creative business. Plus, it shows that you know how to work with real businesses and communicate, and that they like working with you. I've noticed especially videographers tend to do spec work, which is basically, let's say you want to work with Nike, so you take your Nike shoes you already own and you make an ad for Nike. This is essentially just doing free work for Nike, except Nike's never gonna see it, and you're doing it alone, and no one's there to help further your career. The best thing that you can do as creative is just literally go walk through the front doors of a local business and say you are going to do some work for them for free to help grow your portfolio and build your own business. They will understand, they will love it, and they'll want to support you. You just need to make sure your terms are clear. Say, I'm going to shoot 10 photos for you of your product, or I'm going to illustrate the front of your building, or shoot you a little video for Instagram. Make sure that you can tell them exactly what you're giving them, see if they're interested, and then do it for free. And all you have to ask from them is to give you a referral, is for them to tell somebody else that they know that can pay for you and would be willing to pay for you that you did a good job. Free work isn't something that should be spent a lot of time on. I think that's one of the biggest driving factors for this misconception that creatives shouldn't do free work. Creatives should, they should just do it in a weekend. Free work isn't something that takes a week or months. It's something that you do in a weekend and you give them a handful of photos or whatever it is, just a small amount of your talent so that you can get in front of people. Mistake number 2 is not knowing how to actually get clients. Maybe you've done your free work, you have your portfolio, your website, and you know you're skilled, but you just can't seem to get clients or you can't retain them. Every few months, maybe you get a client from a family friend or someone you know, but it's not like you have people just coming through the door all the time. I've been in this situation before, and I think it comes down to these 4 things. I was going to say 3. I think it comes down to these 4 things. And the first one is cold calling. Again, this is another misconception. People think cold calling doesn't work or that it's bad or spammy. It's not if you do it the right way. Reach out to clients and brands that you actually want to work with and be very genuine. Don't make some ChatGPT template. Actually write up a real email or call them on the phone or message them directly on LinkedIn, like the creative director or whoever you want to be working with at that company, and just pitch yourself quickly. Say, hey, my name's Grayson. I use your product all the time. I absolutely love it. I've always want to work with you. I do graphic design. This is my portfolio. If you love to work together, I'd love to work with you. Just email me back. That's all it has to be. It is that simple. Just make it human, make it genuine and authentic, and recognize that 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get a response. But the one time that you do get a response, it's going to be with someone who actually wants to work with you and who you actually want to work with, and it's going to be awesome. The second mistake I see that people do when trying to get clients is just not doing basic marketing. Go on YouTube and watch a video on how to optimize your website for SEO. That way it will actually pop up on Google. Set up a Google My Business page. Do these minor things so that when you go on Google in a private browser, your website actually pops up when you search like motion designer near me. And then be critical of yourself too. Like, click on your website and be honest. Like, does it show your best work? Would you want to hire this person? Is it easy to contact you through your website? Is pricing clear or is it vague? Be very critical on yourself. Look through the perspective of your client and make improvements so that it's more tailored to them. The third mistake I see that people don't do when they're trying to get clients is just being active on social media. In today's age, especially with AI, people want to see genuine human connection and that you're a real person. Even if you're posting your own mistakes or failures on Instagram or LinkedIn, like as long as you're posting your face and you're showing your work and you're being consistent and you're posting stories and you're always active, people are going to recognize that. It's like when you watch a commercial on TV and like you've seen the same commercial 5 times and it's just that State Farm is just embedded in your brain. It's the same way where if you're just in front of people all the time because you're constantly posting on social media, it's going to help them remember you and think like, oh, I know a guy who does this. And for social media, just pick one platform. Pick the platform you think your clients or the people you want to work with will be on. If it's more creative stuff, it'll probably be on Instagram, but also LinkedIn might be great too if your clients are more corporate. And LinkedIn posted a study, I think about a year ago now, but it said that less than 1% of active users on LinkedIn actually post on the platform. 99% of people on LinkedIn just scroll and see what other people post. So if you start posting on LinkedIn, you can actually have a lot of success. And the last mistake when it comes to getting clients, I'm really going to hammer down on this one. It is not asking for a referral. Referrals are everything. They're the best way to grow your business. You want to make sure whenever you finish a project that you ask for a referral, and then 3 months from then, 6 months from them, if you haven't gotten one, follow up again and say, hey, it was a pleasure working with you. Do you know anybody who might benefit from my services, and could you put me in touch with them? The third mistake I see creative entrepreneurs make is trying to sell everything. I had this problem when I started my first business. I was selling video, photo, design, animation, everything under the sun that I could do. And it's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and there's a million things on the menu, you start to question, can the chef cook any of this stuff good? So that's when I changed my first business from media production to video production, because I knew video is what I was best at the time. So I decided to lean into that, and I was able to get a lot more work by just focusing on video. And then later I realized I'm actually really good with drone. What if I niche down to just that? And that's how I ended up with the drone company I have today, where all I do is drone. And as a result, I've been able to work with really big Fortune 500 companies like Goodyear Tire, Costco, Ferguson, all because I niched down to something very specific, and now I'm the best drone pilot in this area. The other mistake I see with the type of work that you do is chasing really big projects rather than consistent income. When I first started out, I wanted that big paycheck. I wanted to be able to prove that I could make a lot of money with this business. And the reality is sometimes the best work is the small work. It's the boring work. With the drone company today, I go out and I'll do monthly projects where I take 5 of the same pictures every month for the same client. And it's not a lot. You can't really charge that much for just 5 pictures. But when I do that with multiple clients, it adds up, and then you have consistent income that stabilizes you every single month while you try to pursue those really big projects too. With this YouTube channel, I try not to just find sponsors who's going to sponsor me for one video. I pick brands who are going to partner with me and grow with me, and we'll do multiple videos, multiple projects together, and you kind of create a back and forth relationship. For example, the brand partner I'm working with today in this video is Skillshare. I've done videos with Skillshare in the past, and I'm going to do more in the future. And speaking of, Skillshare helps you learn everything about running creative business from experts. Let me tell you a little bit about them. Skillshare has a ton of creative classes like these that are taught by professional graphic designers, creatives, and entrepreneurs. Right now, I've been taking this class with Ali Abdal, who I love watching on YouTube, and it's been great because I've gotten to dive even deeper on how he organizes his Notion and keeps himself productive for his creative business. And what's interesting is each class gives you different projects to do. So for this class, you make this Life OS Notion board, and I can actually see other people's projects and their work that they've shared. It's kind of crazy how interactive Skillshare is. It really does feel like you're in a classroom with your peers, and you get to look at everybody else's projects and like them and comment on them. It's pretty cool. And you get to learn whatever you want, whenever you want. You get to build a skill, you get to learn a hobby. There are thousands of classes. And the first 500 people who use the link in the description or scan this QR code, which is floating around my head while I talk, get a 1-month free trial to Skillshare and 20% off their first payment. So try it out and get started today. And now let's talk about mistake number 4. Mistake number 4 is working like an artist instead of a business. Now, sometimes your hobby and your business, when you have a creative business, the line's very blurred. And you have to recognize that if you're going to choose a creative business, you can't always treat it so personal like it's a hobby. And that's where you have to make that distinction between, what you're passionate about and what you're going to turn into a career and what you love doing and you're going to keep just for you. Because the problem that you will run into is eventually there's going to be a time where you might need to put less quality into your work, less passion, less emotion, because in business, there's different tiers to it. I'll give you an example so this makes sense. When I was doing video production full-time, one thing that videographers do is color grading. If you haven't heard of this, basically you shoot the footage almost in like black and white, and then you add the color back in. It's very manual. It takes a lot of time and it's a lot of passion. It's work that you do because you really care about this product and you want the best for it. But honestly, sometimes that's not what the client wants. The client a lot of times just wants it done fast. They want it to be decent and done well and in a fast and just a quick amount of time. So what I discovered in my business is that color grading just wasn't really valued. And when it was valued, that's great. And when you have a client that's paying for that quality and they're paying for your passion and your style and they want you to go all the way, that is the dream. But in the meantime, you're going to also have clients that are just clients and they just want you to come in and provide your service and to do your thing. If you treat every single project like it's your baby and you're going in there and you're putting 1,010% into it, you can get burnt out and you're gonna be overworking yourself for small projects that aren't paying you for your time to do that level of work, and you're gonna get frustrated and upset. And at the end of the day, when you're running a business, you have to understand there's different levels to the work that you're going to be doing. And sometimes you're going to have these clients that are paying high dollar because they want you to put in that quality, to do that color grading, to go all the way. And sometimes you're just going to have clients that want a quicker turnaround. They want decent, good work, but they don't want you to put in a crazy amount of passion and effort into it. And when you find that balance, you're going to be much happier in the business side of creative entrepreneurship. Now, that said, in business, where you should put that extra passion and that extra work and energy is into under promising and over delivering. This is really a key to success. What you do is you tell a client you're going to take them 10 pictures, you give them 15 pictures. You just give them a handful of extra of whatever it is. Maybe you make a logo and you just put it on a nice mock-up for them. And maybe even if you're in a different field, maybe you're into writing or poetry, that's your creativity, write them a handwritten note. Something that's a little bit above what you promised, but not where you're stretching yourself thin or setting the wrong expectation that you're always going to be like over delivering tons of work for them. When you get in the headspace that you can have a creative business that is something that you're passionate about and something that's really exciting, but there's going to be different levels of how much you're going to put into that compared to something that is just purely a hobby for your own enjoyment, that you're going to do whatever you want, it's going to lessen all of this like frustration and upset. Like when a lot of times a client might come back and they have revisions. They want you to change everything you did. You have a particular style or a way of doing things. You make the logo this way and they say make it bigger, make it pop. That's that sort of stuff where people hate revisions. You shouldn't hate revisions. You should understand you're doing this for a client and you're making them happy, and that's the goal when it comes to a business. And there can be things that you do within that make you happy and that you're passionate about, but the world is a little bit different over here than it is where you're just doing a creative hobby for fun. Now, the last mistake is all about money. I saved the best for last. I think there are 4 things that creatives do wrong when it comes to their business and making money. And the first thing is that they spend money before they make it. There seems to be a thought process that you need to buy this lens or this app or have this setup and this thing in order to start making money, and that is just not true. Like I said at the beginning of this video, you can just walk into a local business and start doing work for them without ever having a website in the first place. Whatever you have right now at your disposal, you can get started with. And there's really a fine line when it comes to investing in your business, and you need to know what you're doing before you get into a hole where you're just buying all of this stuff that you have no idea what to do with. It's best to start making money and then reinvesting it in the business, because you learn as you go along and you grow. The next thing is not knowing what to price and charge for your work, and this can be really confusing because no one can tell you what that number is. But I think I can help you guide you to understand how to get to your number. So first of all, don't ask the client for a budget. A lot of people seem to think that you can email the client and say, just tell me what your budget is. That is a terrible idea. It puts the client in a really weird situation where they don't want to lowball you, but they also don't want a really high price, and they also just probably don't have a clue. If you don't know how much you should charge, why would they know how much you should charge? What you should do, especially if you're first starting out, is price lower than you think you should. Be competitive in the market. And then as you grow, and if you find that everybody you reach out to with a price, they always say yes, no questions asked, you're not fighting them, then you need to start raising your prices. And start raising them until you get no's. And people are like, whoa, I have never paid that much for photography or illustration before. That seems a little high. Once you start getting like whoas, then you bring them down and you're like, well, let me bring this down for you a little bit. How about we meet in the middle here? How does this sound? And then that way, now the client feels like they're getting a steal of a deal, because they're getting something that maybe you priced at $1,000. Now they're getting it for $500. They're getting half off, and you're actually like, whoa, I used to charge $50 for this, and now I'm charging $500. So for the whole pricing thing, it's very difficult. And it really is kind of like a vibe. It's a feeling. You have to gauge out as you grow what your prices should be and how they should change. The third problem I see is after people have this all figured out and they've got their pricing and they've got their clients coming in the door and everything is golden, it's good, then they get comfortable and they're like, wow, I did it. I quit my 9-to-5 and all of this stuff. And the truth is, when you get to that point, you probably need to push yourself out of your comfort zone again if you really want to grow. That's probably the best time to hire. The best thing you can do is hire somebody part-time, hire a remote editor or something like that, someone that can just help you in any way, shape, or form, because that is going to help grow your business, and it's also going to push you to continue making money. And then as you're building more wealth, you can hire more people and you start really establishing yourself as a real business that is then providing for a lot of people and doing a lot of good for the world. And of course, that all depends on what your goals are too. If you just want to be a solopreneur and you want to do your thing, then you've made it and you're good. But if you want to keep growing into something bigger, you have to decide how big you do want to grow and what your plan will be there. So once you get comfortable, try to stay uncomfortable, because that's the best way to keep growing. And lastly, this may seem like an obvious one, but hire an accountant. Literally, if you can find a local CPA or someone who can help you do your taxes, they can guide you and help you grow your business as well. When you leave your 9-to-5 and you start working on your own, taxes and things like that start to get very complicated very fast, and you have to kind of understand what you're doing before you might end up kind of making a lot of money being very successful and then realizing you have to pay taxes and not having a clue. Because as you grow your business, you might end up making a lot of money, being very successful, which is great, but then you also have to pay taxes on that, because in a typical 9 to 5, your taxes are taken out and you get a tax refund. When you're just collecting money from other people, you're gonna have to pay taxes back on that, and it can get kind of complicated. So just finding someone local that you can get to know and they get to know you and they can help you with all this stuff is immensely helpful. Now, if you found this video helpful in any way, shape, or form, it would mean a lot to me if you hit the subscribe button. That is how my business, this YouTube channel, continues to grow. So I would really appreciate it. And if you want more tips for creatives, please check out my newsletter, The Creative Brief. It posts once a month in your email about what's going on in the creative industry, and it can be very helpful. And also, I made a video right here that you can watch next. This video is how to design a portfolio and my tips on that. So if you like this video, that video is probably going to be right up your alley.